Hello there, folks. My name is Spoonks, and I saw Rumble, and I didn't like it. Now, when I first saw this trailer in front of Sonic way back when, I wasn't really sold on the movie. It just looked like every single generic sports underdog story, but this time it has a honestly kind of a cool concept, but it felt like it wasn't going to be used up to its full potential, as it still looked kind of generic and typical kids movie, like, in my opinion, when I first saw the trailers. And the rest of the trailers that they have released since then still didn't sell me on the film, as I wasn't really looking forward to this movie. And unfortunately, I had to say it is basically that. It is just another generic underdog sports movie with a wasted concept that's actually. But before we get to the nitty gritty of the things I didn't like about this movie, let's start off with some positives, as there are a couple things that I really liked about this movie. First off, the animation is honestly kind of cool, specifically for the monsters. Everything about the humans and the landscapes is basically typical animated humans and locations you've seen before in other various movies, but not as good. They don't look horrible by any means, but it doesn't really do much to differentiate itself in terms of the humans and locations. But with the monsters, that's where the animators really got the creative liberties to do whatever they want, as the designs and the movements and their variations in fighting styles and how the world works around them is honestly really cool, and they all look so unique and different and have these designs that we haven't really seen for these types of monsters and kaiju before in an animated movie, which was all very cool and very well done. And as a result of this, it results in the actual monster fighting and wrestling to become the highlights of the movie, as they're really cool, fun, and entertaining to watch. The wrestling scenes have a certain style and energy to them that gets you hyped up and engaged, and honestly eager to see when the next one's coming, as they're all so entertaining and cool to watch. You can really tell that the animators and the team tasked to animate these scenes had a lot of fun crafting and working on them. I also actually kind of liked a couple of the characters. I honestly thought the main girl was actually pretty interesting and even a likable main character, honestly, but that's less to do with the writing and how she's written, and more so with the performance, as she's played by Geraldine Viswanathan. Oh god, I butchered that name. Ma'am, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I loved you in Blockers and Miracle Workers. Please forgive me. But yeah, she brings a whole lot of energy and personality to the character that it honestly makes up for the weak writing, and it makes her character entertaining to watch. I also like these two sports commentators that are briefly seen throughout the movie. They were honestly the funniest characters in the entire thing, as they provided a large majority of the laughs from me. And speaking of laughs, I did laugh 4 times and chuckled maybe 7 or 8 at most. While this definitely sounds like not the best thing you want to hear, there were a couple of actually funny jokes that actually caught me off guard and made me laugh and even chuckle a handful of times. And maybe if they added more of these funny jokes, it probably could have saved the movie a bit from being as bad as it was. But unfortunately, there are many issues to be had with this movie, in my opinion. First off, the story is basically every single generic underdog sports movie you have seen time and time again, and it really doesn't do anything to differentiate itself outside of, once again, the pretty cool concept, which it honestly kind of wastes because they really don't do much with it, which is unfortunate because this is such a cool and interesting world to explore. But that's all this movie really offers its viewers. It's a world where monsters wrestle. They don't show how this came to be, what was the first monster wrestling fight or anything. A lot of these questions are left very unanswered, and causes the world building to be severely lacking, as it felt like the filmmakers didn't really know what to do outside of the core concept, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of ways you could have explored this concept and make it cool, but they didn't really go for those and just went for the easy way out, which is unfortunate. And because of all of this, it results in the movie feeling very predictable and formulaic and tedious to sit through, as you basically know everything that's about to happen when they introduce a brand new idea or plot development at any given time. They need to save the wrestling stadium. Guess how that goes. Steve is an underdog. Guess how that goes. The two main characters start off not liking each other. Guess how that goes. People ostracize them because they're dance fighting, and that's not what you do in wrestling. Guess how that goes. This also results in the characters feeling very generic and hollow as well, as there's not a whole lot to them and we don't really get to learn a whole lot about them, and the writing for them isn't the best. It's really the voice actors and the performances that really make these characters somewhat bearable, to say the least. Steve is basically just BoJack Horseman, but not as interesting and lazier. You got Tentacular, who's just the egotistical sports jock who is only in it for the fame, and everyone else I could care less about. I don't even really know their names. Outside of the 3 previous ones I mentioned earlier that I did quite enjoy, there's nothing about these characters that really stands out or makes me really like or care about them. And lastly, the humor of this movie isn't the best. Outside of the 4 times I laughed and 8 times I chuckled, this movie isn't really all that funny, as it often more than not relies heavily on juvenile humor and self-referential humor on the basis of like, hey, isn't it funny that we're pointing out how we're often borrowing so much from these underdog sports movies? That surely makes up for the fact that we're borrowing so much from other underdog sports movies. And due to the timing and how often the humor feels very forced and just completely falls flat, it doesn't make these jokes land for me, and I was often just waiting for them to move on to the next scene. So yeah, I didn't really care for this movie, which honestly sucks because once again, not only is this another animated movie that had to forego its theatrical release to be released on a streaming service at the very last minute, which obviously sucks for the animators that worked hard on this, but it was just so much wasted potential because, once again, this concept and what the animators were able to do with these creatures and these monsters' designs and the rest whole was honestly really fun and engaging. I just wish the movie lived up to its potential, as there were moments where it showed that. Again, with the animation, some of the characters, and even some of the jokes got a laugh out of me. But unfortunately, the story, the world building, the characters, and the humor just couldn't make up for it, as I found a lot of those aspects I just said to be very lacking and kind of hindered the movie down for me. I definitely don't think this is worth signing up for another streaming service. And while, once again, I do truly feel sorry for the fact that these animators worked so long and hard and passionately on this movie, and it suffered so many delays to get into theaters that it had to be dumped very last minute again to a streaming service, I can kind of see why. This is basically just another generic underdog sports movie that I unfortunately don't really recommend checking out. And those were my thoughts on Rumble. What did you guys think of it if you've seen it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links at the end of the video. And until next time, guys, stay sharp.
It's an epic monster battle. Sound the awesome monster horn. For an evil wizard and the dragon puss and the Scorpio Pegasus.
turns to quiet, and calm sweeps through the land. The battle's been decided, but who had the upper hand?